In this week's drive, we get near some very special smarts, get caught up in a crowd, and find that what goes up most certainly comes back down. All this and more in this week's Drive. Juan Pablo Montoya is coming up fast in Michael Schumacher's rearview mirror. The Formula One driver from Colombia has reached as high as second in the race for the World Championship, getting to within 6 points of five-time world champion Schumacher. At a press conference at home in Bogota, Montoya was asked about rumours that have him leaving the resurgent Williams team to join either McLaren or Ferrari.
I have a contract with Williams until the end of 2004. For 2005, I've talked to various teams because the truth is that I'm a free man. The truth is that I have to look into my options. I have to see what will happen with Ferrari, what will happen with McLaren, what will happen with Williams, what will happen with Toyota. Looking into the future, Toyota seems a very interesting option because Toyota has an unlimited project, so the things they can accomplish can be amazing.
He's realistic about the situation, but isn't making any rash promises.
I'm in a very strong position compared to Michael, but I don't want to rely on that or say that I will be champion this year until I do win. It's very difficult to say. I prefer to wait and see if I win the championship. Whether I win it or not, I did the best I could.
And how does he see his team's performance?
They've been getting a lot better. You know, the last few races we look a lot stronger. We've been, scoring the last 6 races 50 points, and if I can keep the ball rolling like that, we'll be looking really good.
Of course, the first person you have to beat is your teammate, another Schumacher.
Who's your bigger rival, Ralph or Michael?
I think Michael for the championship is a lot bigger rival at the moment. You know, he's got the experience. He won some championships before, and he's leading it.
This really is shaping up as the best Formula One season in years. The Brickyard 400 is one of the most important races of the NASCAR season, taking place in the Indianapolis Motor Speedway, home of the famous Indy 500. The 10th running of the race started in ideal conditions with Kevin Harvick on pole. There was a frightening moment in pit lane on lap 37 when Dale Jarrett spun as he tried to slow in a hurry. Jarrett's Ford clipped a crew member, John Bryan, and then hit the pit wall. Bryan's helmet was broken, but he was able to walk away, complaining of a sore shoulder and pelvis, and he was taken to hospital. Bryan was also hit on the pit road in November 2001 during a race at Homestead in Florida. On lap 46, John Andretti spun out and hit the wall. Amazingly, with all the traffic congestion around him, no other cars were involved in the wreck. The 4-lap yellow flag bunched up the field, and Tony Stewart promptly snatched the lead from Ryan Newman.
Once you get a lap down, winning is impossible.
Almost here. You're right, BP.
Then, with 16 laps to go and most drivers trying to decide whether to stop for fuel or chance running out, a 7-car crash changed the complexion of the race. The problem started when Terry Labonte in car number 5 spun out and took out several other cars with him, including Ricky Rudd, Mike Skinner, Jimmy Johnson and Sterling Marlin. Incredibly, Labonte went on to finish 19th right behind Johnson, but Rudd and Skinner were out on the spot, while Marlin soldiered on to finish 34th and 6 laps down. After the restart, Kevin Harvick pulled away, going 20 car lengths ahead of runner-up Matt Kenseth, who leads the championship. The biggest problem Harvick had all day came when his right rear tyre blew, taking the fender off his Chevrolet as he spun victory donuts. He paid tribute to Dale Earnhardt Sr., the 7-times Winston Cup champion and former Brickyard winner that he replaced when Dale was killed during the 2001 Daytona 500. Mika Kagared of Sweden beat Tommy Moller in the European Top Fuel Championship and now leads by 19 points. He didn't finish last season after he destroyed his dragster in a huge crash. Earlier in the Top Fuel event, Britain's Andy Carter escaped without injury when his dragster blew a tyre and broke in 2. I felt the tyre go and the car drop on one side. After that, it was hang on and work through the shutdown procedure. Chutes, fuel shut off and brakes. A waste of time as the axle had broken away from the chassis. There was a large but brief flash fire, but I was out of the car before the safety crew arrived, said Andy. Swiss Urs Urbacher again dominated the top methanol funny car, maintaining his unbeaten record to finish 152 points clear at the top of the championship.
It's the 5th race in a row we win, and the 4th in this championship. It's crazy, unbelievable.
Swede Roger Pettersson set another European record as he rode his Suzuki to extend his lead in the Pro Stock Bikes class.
Everything gone our way this weekend, so we're very happy. The crew have worked very hard, and I'd like to thank all my sponsors. This was a great weekend.
Håkan Nilsson was another winner. The Swede is now in a very strong position to take the Pro Modified Championship.
I am happy.
Roel Kudam of the Netherlands virtually clinched the Top Fuel bike title with a spectacular performance at 6.228 seconds on his monster Yamaha.
The bike is really flying. We do every run almost, we do a personal best. And there's still a lot to come in Centerpot and Hockenheim.
We go to the Baltic seaport of Stralsund now for powerboat racing. 7-time world champion Guido Capellini on pole led into the first turn at the Grand Prix of Germany. However, the world champ was one of the lucky ones. 4 of the top 6 competitors crashed out without rounding the first buoy. Massimo Ruggiero started the trouble, colliding with Leif Verhoeven and flipping the Italian's boat. Then American Scott Gilman and Dane Gert Ladervoged ploughed into the wreckage, ending all 4 drivers' race hopes. None of them were seriously injured. Despite teenager Max Moreschi's false start when the race restarted, Capellini eased into the lead again. Back in the field, visibility was a serious problem, but this time the remaining competitors did come through the first turn unscathed. Capellini dominated the early stages of the race, leading from fellow Italian Francesco Cantando. Fabio Comparato completed an Italian monopoly of the top 3 places. But Cantando on the left was pushing hard and had slashed Capellini's advantage to just 1.25 seconds, and the thousands of fans in the eastern German harbour town loved it. As Capellini struggled to pass a backmarker, the young pretender slid up the inside and into the lead, which he would hold to the end. Tani Al-Khamzi was the Emirates team's only hope after Gilman's retirement, and he was making good progress up to 4th and all over Comparato. But they were making no ground on Capellini in 2nd place. But the vastly experienced 43-year-old was lucky to come out of a collision with Belgium's Julius Leysen relatively unscathed. Leysen, however, was not so fortunate, ending his race upside down. Capellini's quest in tracking down Cantando came to an end in the 30th lap as he flipped his boat after a false trim indicator reading. The 17-year veteran was unhurt, but he dropped valuable championship points. Al-Khamzi used yet another restart to grab 2nd place from Comparato, a boost for his Emirates team, but no one could catch Cantando. He took the checkered flag after 69 laps in a time of 81 minutes 4.86 seconds, over 5 seconds ahead of Al-Khamzi in 2nd and Comparato in 3rd. The victory puts Cantando back into contention for his first World Championship after finishing 2nd in the 2000 and 2001 seasons. The 28-year-old is now tied with Capellini at the top of the standings. The Swedes were the last team to qualify for the Speedway World Cup final in Denmark, and then only by winning a qualifying race-off. The odds were certainly stacked against them walking away as world champions. Defending 2002 world champs Australia began the evening well and soon had a commanding lead in defence of the title. But the Swedes were scoring consistently, even without concussed world champion Tony Rickardsson. Judicious use of the Joker delivered the Swedes the maximum 8 points over Australia, and with 2 heats remaining, the teams were level on 55 points. All the more sensational then that, under pressure, youngster Peter Ljung should win Heat 24 and beat one of the world's best riders, Australian Lee Adams, by a 3-point margin to put the Swedes ahead with 1 race to go. Stand-in captain Peter Carlsson made a perfect start in the final race, needing only 2 points, or 3rd place, to win the Cup. But he surged straight into the lead and held on for victory. The Swedes got stronger as the final progressed, while the Aussies, with Jason Lyons failing to score in his 5 races, wilted. Even the unbeaten Lee Adams and Jason Crump could not stop the Swedish steamroller. With Australia coming a disappointing 4th, the Swedes won a thrilling 2003 World Cup final from behind in true style. As a result of their performance, David Ruud and Peter Ljung were granted wildcard entries in the Scandinavian Speedway Grand Prix at Ullevi Stadium in Gothenburg in Sweden. The inclusion of the two youngsters means that all members of the Swedish World Cup team would compete at their national stadium, where a special presentation of the World Cup and the winning Swedish team to their home fans would be made.
Yeah, I'm very proud of the boys, you know, we really dug deep, you know, and said, you know, it's 25 races and we're going to race each one and see what happens, you know. The odds wasn't on us, but it's a speedway meeting and anything can happen.
Australia finished second overall and Denmark recovered well from a poor start to finish third. Poland, with their superstar rider Tomasz Golob, never really threatened and finished fourth. Britain also began slowly, the riders struggling with the rutted, grooved circuit, before an early joke arrived by Lee Richardson put them fleetingly into contention for bronze. That was claimed by the Danes, and Britain slumped to fifth. The motocross circus was in Holland for the 9th of 12 World Championship rounds. Belgian Stefan Everts was a favourite to win the MXGP, despite nearest rival Joel Smets starting the race on pole. But the Yamaha rider surged into an early lead and stayed clear of trouble despite the difficulties posed by the rutted and sandy track. Behind him, riders like Joshua Coppens were fighting the conditions as much as the competition. It wasn't only the sandy, rutted track or the severity of the savage whoops, but blistering heat was sapping everyone's strength. Reigning world champion Michael Pichon made a mistake and winded himself so badly that he couldn't breathe, and it would get worse. Even Smets couldn't match the pace set by Everts. Pichon eventually bailed off completely. He recovered to finish fifth, but lost valuable points and ceded second place in the championship to Smets, who was happy with second place in the race. Kiwi Josh Coppens was also caught out by the super tough track. Everts' win, his sixth in a row, became a cruise as all behind him faltered and fell by the wayside, literally.
I felt really good and I got the lead very soon and I pushed really hard the first 15-20 minutes and then I see to pull away and then Joel gave up and the gap got so big that I finally start the cruise and enjoy my riding.
At the end of an exhausting 40-minute moto, the win means he now tops the leaderboard with 200 points. However, only Smets and Pichon can even get close, with just 3 rounds left in this year's title chase. In the Big Banger 650 category, 5 of the top 6 in practice were Belgians, with only Spaniard Javier Garcia-Vico getting amongst them. Estonian Avo Ljok, fastest in warm-up, was out on the first lap. Garcia-Vico was on a charge, here passing Johan Buurnen. A flawless race saw Smets carve himself an early and impressive lead, but the hard-charging Spaniard was never far off the early pace and looked at one stage to be threatening the championship leader for his first win. Smets, though, was cool under pressure and crossed the line for his 8th win from 9 starts, with a 32-second margin over the Spaniard.
It was really difficult with the heat and with the big lead to stay concentrated, but the only thing was in my mind, I said, okay, I have to win again, and I'm happy I did it.
Garcia came second and Danny Tabers finished third. Smets now has a 26-point lead over Vico, with Cedric Malot the only other rider with a chance of claiming the title. He crashed twice in 20 metres and retired. The 125cc race was put back until 4 p.m, and riders were faced with the roughest track conditions of the weekend. Again, it was Everts who adapted the quickest and set about racing himself on the 250cc 4-stroke, while the 3 factory KTMs of Steve Ramon, Eric Eggins and Ben Townley diced for the lower steps on the podium.
I'm so happy that we have so much success, and now we have to try and finish the championship in the MXGP, and then I will be very happy. Thank you.
Ramon was second, Eggins third after Townley tired. The championship turned in favour of Ramon after Andrea Bartolini crashed in the whoops and came 10th, with defending champ Michael Maschio 8th. The next round is the German Grand Prix in Geldorf. The world's top one-make bike racing series, Boxer Cup, was at a rainy Le Mans, where Marcus Barth was on pole. Boxer Cup Series ambassador and ex-Grand Prix racer Randy Mamela showed another bike racing legend around the grid as riders waited for the start.
The concept is good, that's what I mean. It actually creates a very close and interesting race, and you never know what's going to happen. So that's why I like to come and have a look and see what's going on.
When the lights went out, Barth retained the lead ahead of a fast-starting championship leader, Roberto Panici, from 7th place on bike 99. Swiss Andy Hoffmann on the green number 5 machine also moved into the leading group. But the dicey track conditions, dry, damp, patchy or soaked, made sure that everyone took the first few turns very gingerly. Barth's lead didn't last long as Hoffmann, second in the championship, squeezed by. All the bikes raced by the national teams are identical, based on road-going BMW R1150R motorcycles with minor changes to suspension, exhausts and bodywork. A characteristic of BMW bikes that goes unbroken right back to 1923 is the horizontally opposed twin-cylinder engine. And yes, riders do drag those cylinders on the ground in corners. The lead was changing often between Hoffmann, Spaniard Fernando Cristobal on bike 16, Austrian Thomas Hinterreiter on 7, and number 22, Englishman Matt Late, who had started back in 27th place. Behind the leading group, Frenchman Laurie Fremy on 54 was leading Belgian rain specialist Dirk Bijlinks on bike 4, despite having fallen off in the warm-up. By this stage, pole starter Marcus Barth had drifted right back to 12th. Cristobal had forced his bike into the lead, and Late had also got by Hoffmann to go second. France, Britain, Switzerland. Then Fremy tried to find a way past the veteran Swiss rider too, but the experienced man kept him neatly out. Klaus Nies was rudely taken out by Augusti Busquets after the Spaniard locked up and took a slide under brakes in the pack. Then the rain came down, and Late mounted a determined challenge on Cristobal's lead, the Spaniard responding in kind. As the rain increased, Late seemed to prove that the British have the most experience of wet weather riding as he claimed the lead, and from 27th place on the grid. His progress was causing some concern among rival pit crews. But his race pace was 101% of conditions, and pretty soon Matt Late was down and out. He would eventually be classified 19th. With Cristobal opening up a healthy lead, Hoffmann was in the three-way battle for second place with Bijlinks and Italian Alessandro Tomasoni on bike 69. However, being in front in this race seems to be bad news, as Cristobal throws it away just like Late did before him. Oil on the track tripped him up, stealing away his 8.8-second lead on lap 9. As the following riders instinctively picked up their bikes, Tomasoni managed to sneak through to grab the lead. The Italian had started in the unlucky for some 13th place on the grid. Several riders fell on oil that came from other bikes that had crashed and rejoined the race. Bijlinks was doing everything he could to get by Hoffmann, and while these two scrapped for second, the Italian was able to pull ahead and extend his lead on the soaking track. No matter what the young Belgian tried, the vastly experienced Swiss rival always seemed to have an answer. In his enthusiasm, Dirk touches Andy as the pair stretch their bikes to the red line down the straight. But the move works and the Belgian goes into a slender second place. For the third time in as many races, American Jason Perez crashes out of a Boxer Cup round, going down on the 11th of 16 laps. Englishman Barry Burrell on bike 77 loses his footing in the middle of a pack, which included Gwilym Dietrich on 50 and his own teammate Paul Cooper on number 47. Dietrich, the best-placed Frenchman, moved up into fourth. Tomassoni was having an unchallenged run to the line as behind him a five-man battle for fourth place was underway. Last lap heroics would see Cooper take Dietrich and his own teammate Burrell off the track. Burrell would place 5th, Dietrich 7th and Cooper 17th. Belgian Sébastien Legrel inherited 4th spot in the resulting confusion. Tomassoni, the European Super Twins champion of 2000, was able to slow down slightly on the last lap, although he wasn't being cautious. He just wanted to know who was in second place. It was Biolinks, the Belgian Boxer Cup champion of 2 years ago, with Hoffman third, happy to pick up 16 points. This cuts Roberto Panici's title lead to just 5 points. Tomassoni dedicated the win to his father, who died a few months ago.
I'm lucky. Today I'm very lucky. Today. And the bike is a beautiful bike, very, very beautiful. Bellissimo.
10 riders of the 32 who started failed to finish the Le Mans race. This is a very unusual car. Only 8 exist, and although they look like production cars, they were built as prototypes. But in fact, only the drivetrain is really special. The basic car is a regular, smart roadster, but the regular 3-cylinder turbo engine has effectively been doubled up, making it into a V6 twin-turbo 1400, delivering about 170 brake horsepower and able to accelerate from 0 to 100 kilometers an hour in less than 6 seconds and reach a top speed of more than 220 kilometers an hour, very effectively demonstrating just how under stress the regular Roadster really is. The Roadster and Roadster Coupe, launched in April, revive the compact and purist Roadster, which hasn't existed in this form since the 50s and 60s of the last century.
Well, we from Smart, we think that the Smart Roadster is a revival of the typical Roadsters, which are also very famous in Britain. So we think it's a pure Roadster, which gives a lot of fun to drive, has a low weight, it's pure performance.
Ex-Grand Prix driver Alexander Wurz, now the McLaren Mercedes Formula One test pilot, was one of the drivers entrusted with the priceless cars at a commemorative event near Stuttgart. The 8 vehicles were driven by legendary racing drivers of the 50s and 60s in the Solitude regularity events, doing laps of the 4.6-kilometer course and trying to match a time set by the former Mercedes-Benz Silver Arrow Works driver Hans Hermann.
Just look at the figures, then you can see that the car is awesome and has to, and it will make some fun, because it's from the weight power ratio, it's there where sports cars are, where the big Mercedes cars are, or Porsches and whatsoever. So it's quite small, it's slow, it gives a good feeling, you know, and I think it's just awesome looking as well.
Mercedes once built a couple of A-classes with 2 engines apiece, but they never went any further with the idea. Similarly, Smart assure us that the V6 Biturbo will never go into production. We'll see. So, whether you drive with friends or enjoy the countryside, so you stay on track and up to speed, make sure you catch next week's Drive.